Hey, if you've only seen the Game of Thrones TV show, then you probably don't know who Arianne Martell is. Well, you remember those Dornish characters that we barely see? We see Prince Oberyn Martell briefly, and the show did a great job with his character and his storyline. But then we also meet his brother Doran, this moody guy, who is the older brother and therefore the ruling Prince of Dorne. We see the Sand Snakes and Delaria Sand, who are Oberyn's daughters and his paramour, whose characters and storylines both get butchered. We do even see Doran Martell's son in the show, Trystane, who in the books is the youngest of his three children, and faithfully to the books at least, Trystane gets on well with Myrcella when she's sent to Dorne. In the show, Doran Martell has no mention of other children. In the A Song of Ice and Fire books, Doran Martell, Mr. Quiet Overthinker, has a firstborn daughter, Princess Arianne Nymeros Martell, better known simply as Arianne Martell, who's around 22 years of age. Prince Quentin Nymeros Martell, better known as that poor kid, Quentin Martell, who's around age 18 and is sent off to go and try and bring back Dany. And of course, the youngest being Trystane, who's about 12. So, who is Arianne Martell? Well, according to Dornish law and Rhoynish customs, as the firstborn daughter of Doran, she is his heir. She is heir to Dorne. Princess Arianne. In her chapters contained within the published books and the two sample chapters that we have from The Winds of Winter, we learn from her POV, as she recalls, she spent several years of her early life at the Water Gardens, and during her adolescence, she was pudgy and flat-chested, and she would pray to the Faith of the Seven nightly, hoping that she would be given beauty when she was older. Now a woman in her early 20s, Arianne is buxom and beautiful, with olive skin, large dark eyes, and long, thick black hair that falls in ringlets to the middle of her back. She perfumes her hair. She has full lips, a husky voice, and apparently a great rack. Like her mother, Lady Mellario of Norvos, Arianne is short, standing at 5'2". Arianne once held her young cousin, Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, her aunt Elia's daughter, but she was so young at the time that she no longer remembers. Arianne does remember her great-uncle, Prince Lewin Martell of the Kingsguard, of whom she had cherished memories. When Robert's rebellion ended, Arianne was 7 years old. At the age of 8, Arianne became afflicted with red spots, which is basically the Westerosi chickenpox. Arianne, her character, she is calculating, adventurous, and fierce-tempered, as we learn from her story in the books. When she sees something she desires, she strives to obtain it at all costs. She does not shy away from using her looks to get what she wants, nor from seducing men to get them to do her bidding. Yup. Sir Aris Oakhart thinks that Arianne's nature compares more to her uncle Oberyn's than to her father's. I mean, I haven't heard much about Doran, but considering we know that Oberyn was quite openly sexual and Aris Oakhart has an encounter or two with Arianne, it's not surprising that he makes that connection. Arianne considers handsome men one of her greatest weaknesses, in particular when they have an air of adventure and the forbidden. Ew. Saying that, Arianne does have a weird fascination with her Uncle Oberyn, which we're just gonna glaze over. Please. We're not gonna get into it. Arianne is close with her childhood friends, Andre Dalt, I always struggle with this name, Silva Santagar, I always just want to say Sylvia, and Garin. She loves her cousins, Oberyn's daughters, Obara, Nymeria, and Tyene Sand, who Arianne considers to be like the sister she never had. She shares everything with Tyene. What about her style? Arianne prefers to wear silks. On one occasion, she wears a jeweled girdle and loose layers of flowing purple silk and yellow samite, with snakeskin sandals lacing up to her thighs. And on another occasion, she wears scarlet silks, just to be outrageous. Arianne has a headband of copper suns, and her jewelry includes an ornate snake with copper and gold scales, which she coils around her right forearm. Oh my god, I have a bracelet that I forgot to show you. I'll circle back round to it. When traveling, Arianne wears a copper helm and hides a throwing knife given to her by Nymeria in her boot, which makes her sound kind of badass, but I wonder how much experience she has practicing throwing that thing. She covers her face with a veil of shimmering silk, pale green above, blending with yellow below, with small pearls giving the veil weight and keeping the sand out of her face. Arianne had a close relationship with her father Doran, Prince of Dorne, when she was a girl. She would run to him when she had hurt herself, and she would always give him a goodnight kiss. Oh, cute. Arianne was 14 when she found a half-written letter from Doran to her younger brother, Quentyn, who was being fostered at Ironwood. Doran stated that Quentyn would one day sit in his place and rule Dorne, suggesting to Arianne that Doran intended for her younger brother to succeed him, passing over Arianne entirely. Arianne cried about her discovery for many days. She longed to be a dutiful daughter, but she wanted her father to show that he valued her, and she began to rebel against Doran in small ways. When she was still 14, oh dear, Arianne lost her virginity to Daemon Sand, the bastard of God's grace, in an encounter that she remembers as clumsy but sweet. Arianne told Doran about. Oh my god. Arianne told Doran about the encounter immediately afterwards. Like, God, Arianne, why would you go and do that? Anyway, Doran did nothing about it. She obviously just wants to, like, anger him. Doran did nothing about it, adding to Arianne's feelings that he was just very good at doing nothing. In truth, Doran was planning for Quentyn to inherit the rule of Dorne because he intended for Arianne to wed the Viserys Targaryen and rule the Seven Kingdoms. Prince Oberyn had travelled to Braavos years before and signed a secret marriage pact. In return for Arianne marrying Viserys, Doran would support Viserys' claim to the Iron Throne. Doran once planned to reveal the truth to Arianne about the betrothal, but held off telling her because her rebellious behavior made him go, "Do you know what? She tells these girls everything. If I tell her this plan is going to get out, and I can't have that." When Arianne reached the age of marriage, Doran presented her with several suitors, all of whom were elderly. Arianne refused them all. Because of having read the letter to Quentyn, the insulting marriage candidates Doran presented her with, and Doran's parents' coolness towards her, Arianne became convinced that her father hated her. In truth, Doran presented her with the elderly lords because he knew she was going to say no. And it would be suspicious if he just didn't offer her, out to anyone. Oh, that sounds bad. But hey, it kept her free to marry Viserys. Arianne had long been dissatisfied with her father and his style of rule, thinking Doran as weak and vacillating. When her father moved to the Water Gardens in 298 AC, Arianne remained at Sunspear. However, instead of being made Castellan or given a position of power, she was put in charge of feasts and frolics. Bit insulting, really. It's like being the party planner. While Prince Oberyn was given the highest place of power at Sunspear's court. While her uncle would visit Doran at the Water Gardens twice every fortnight, Arianne was summoned by her father only twice a year, which further enforced her belief that her father just didn't want her as heir. Yeah, I guess if she's longing for it and he's just not bothering, she's just gonna feel unwanted. In A Clash of Kings, as part of an alliance that Tyrion arranges between the Iron Throne and House Martell, Princess Myrcella Baratheon, Lannister, is being sent to Dorne as a ward, and she is to be betrothed to Trystane. Myrcella is accompanied by Sir Aras Oakhart of the Kingsguard as her sworn shield. Poor Sir Aras Oakhart. In A Feast of Crows, with Doran Martell, Prince of Dorne, away at the Water Gardens, it falls on Arianne to meet Princess Myrcella and Sir Aris Oakhart upon their arrival at Sunspear. Sir Aris had previously been noted as writing to Tywin in A Storm of Swords, stating that Myrcella and Trystane were getting on well and that Myrcella had taken a great liking to Princess Arianne. So did Sir Aris. Arianne tries to seduce the knight, but it takes half a year before she is successful. He is, well hard for those vows. She then drinks moon tea to avoid pregnancy. Unbeknownst to Doran, Arianne has learned that her brother, Prince Quentyn, has secretly travelled across the Narrow Sea. When the Golden Company breaks its contract with Myr, she fears that Quentyn might have hired them to rob her of her birthright, and that he has Doran's support. To fight the supposed challenge to her own birthright, to avenge Oberyn and Elia, and to free her cousins, who Doran has contained to keep them from starting an uproar in Dorne wanting vengeance, Arianne puts into motion her scheme. She wants to crown Myrcella as Queen of the Seven Kingdoms by Dornish law, because as an older sister, she would inherit over her younger brother, which will likely cause a war with King Tommen Baratheon, her younger brother. Arianne also hopes that the Dornishmen will rally to this cause with the support of the released Sand Snakes, because if Arianne gets that power, she'll free them. Arianne assumes that this would make her the inevitable choice as a replacement for her father, whom she wants to go and live out the rest of his days at the Water Gardens as a captive. I mean, he pretty much just does that anyway, choosing to, but yeah, as a captive, along with her brother Quentyn. During a tryst, Arianne manipulates Aris into aiding and abetting her plan, promising that Queen Myrcella would permit them to marry, despite his Kingsguard vows. Arianne convinces Aris that they would need to act before her father brings Myrcella from Sunspear to the Water Gardens. In truth, Arianne has no intention of marrying Aris, whom she likes but does not love. Using those men. Arianne, tut-tut. Maybe that's going to be her downfall. Arianne assembles her closest friends as co-conspirators in her scheme. Andrew Dolt, heir to his brother Desiel, the Knight of Lemonwood, Garin, an orphan of the Green Blood, and Silva Santagar, the heir of House Santagar. She also recruits the fierce Sir Gerald Dane, also known as Darkstar, although she does not trust him completely. Meanwhile, Aris has the task of smuggling Myrcella out of Sunspear, using feigned illness of the princess and her lookalike bedmaid, Rosamund Lannister, as I think that's a cousin, as well as a stand-in for himself. Arianne and the others wait for Aris and Myrcella at the abandoned holdfast of Shandystone, which I think she had been taken to as a child by Prince Oberyn, with a bunch of friends, I think. God, I hope that's not, that sounds weird. Anyway, from there, Arianne plans to head out to the Green Blood and travel with an orphan pole boat westward on that river and the Vaith, then continue by land. The final destination is to be Hellholt, where Arianne intends to crown Myrcella as queen and raise her own banners. While waiting at Shandystone, Arianne grows increasingly wary of Darkstar, who dismisses her plan as unrealistic and alludes to killing Myrcella. When Arianne's band arrives at the Green Blood, Prince Dorne's captain of guards, Arya Hotar, and a dozen guardsmen emerge from the pole boat. Arianne and Darkstar want to yield, but Aris, oh no, he has to go headlong into the guards and is killed by Arya Hotar's long axe, his wifey. While Arianne falls into desperation and nausea, Gerald Dane seriously injures Myrcella, who loses an ear, then manages to escape Arya's men. While she is being arrested, Arya tells Arianne that someone betrayed her plans. During her chapter, The Princess in the Tower, Sir Doran Martell keeps his daughter isolated within the Spear Tower in Sunspear. The pleasantly appointed cell has history books, maps, and a savas table, which Arianne does not utilize any of it. She realizes that either Dre, Garin, or Spotted Silver must have betrayed her, and that Aris died in a suicide charge, which he undertook to wipe out his shame from their little tryst. Arianne is forbidden contact with the outside world and attended by servants who will not speak to her. She gets so frustrated by this. Her attempt to send a message to Lord Franklin Fowler through Kedra, however you want to read it, is intercepted by Doran, after which Arianne begins a hunger strike. Can you imagine being her father and having to deal with her? Like, Doran, please, the only way of dealing with this that I can think of is just explaining to her. After several weeks, Arianne is brought before her father. Finally, Doran informs her that Sir Balon Swan of the Kingsguard is travelling toward Sunspear, and Arianne realizes that Doran needs her to help convince Myrcella to lie about what transpired. When an angry Arianne reveals that she had read the letter that was meant for Quentyn, Doran explains the letter and his apparent inaction were a part of a larger plan to avenge the deaths of Elia and her children. Finally, he reveals that he had only offered Arianne elderly, unacceptable suitors because he had secretly promised her to another. This man had died, however, and Quentyn is on a mission for vengeance and justice for House Martell. I just feel like they're not going to get it. In A Dance with Dragons, at the feast welcoming Sir Balon Swan and his companions to Sunspear, Arianne sits on the right of her father, a place of high honour. Balon is there to deliver the skull of the mountain, supposedly. Arianne flirts with Balon, but he is not so easily seduced and distracted from his duties as his sworn brother was, Sir Aris. Arianne has convinced Myrcella to lie to Balon about what happened and claim that Aris was slain by Sir Gerald Dane, Darkstar. Doran has planned for them all to travel to the Water Gardens, where Myrcella is staying, and where Balon can learn from Myrcella what Gerald has done. According to Doran's plan, Myrcella is to plead with Balon to bring Gerald to justice. After Doran reveals to the eldest three Sand Snakes what their respective roles will be in his plan, Arianne wishes them well, and remains with her father after they leave. In the Winds of Winter sample chapters that we get from Arianne's point of view, Prince Doran receives a letter from Jon Connington revealing the survival of Elia's son, Aegon Targaryen. Doran sends Arianne to discover the truth about Aegon and Jon. She travels with several companions who he is assigned to her, including her new sworn shield, Sir Daemon Sand. Awkward considering their history when she was 14. Joss Hood, Garble Chells, Nate, Jane Ladybright, and her cousin Elia Sand. She is wild, this girl. They visit Ghost Hill and take a ship to the Stormlands. Arianne and the company travel through the Rainwood, where they explore a cave once inhabited by the Children of the Forest. I love that little chapter bit. That is, if you haven't already, I do a little chapter reading. Go and have a listen. At Mistwood, they encounter members of the Golden Company, who have taken the castle, and sellswords escort the Dornishmen to Griffin's Roost. At that castle, Arianne learns that the Golden Company, Jon, and supposedly Aegon have taken Storm's End, and she decides to sail to meet them there. Against the strong feeling of Daemon Sand, he is like, this doesn't feel right, I don't think we should, send me in your stead. She's like, nope, I must go. I must see for myself. I must flaunt it because I've got it, it's more like in her case, I think. I mean, I don't know why I like her as a character, because she seems like a bit of a dick, doesn't she? But I guess in the grand scheme of things, there are much worse people. What do you think is going to happen in her future, storyline in Winds of Winter? I kind of think she's doomed. I hope she's not. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And the Patreon is gonna be live when this video goes out. It's gonna be there. We're gonna build a little community, and there will be like question of the week, and you can vote if you want to on future videos. Be there, be square. Because it's a bit nerdy to chat about, isn't it? Anyway, thank you for watching again. I'll see you next time. Cheerio.